Before the great flood, when the world was still pure and untouched, the heavens looked down in quiet order. Humanity was young and innocent. So God, in his wisdom, chose guardians to watch over them, 200 angels who would guide and protect the children of earth. These were called the Watchers, the sons of heaven. One day, God spoke to them, "Go now, my watchers, and guard the world I have made. Let no corruption rise from the dust. Guide them in silence, and behold, but do not touch." They understood well what God's command meant. Obedient and resolute, they prepared to fulfill their duty. Then the sky opened, and the watchers began their descent through the clouds toward the waiting earth. At their head was Semjaza, their leader. He carried himself with quiet authority. Beside him walked Azazel, whose mind was restless even in heaven. He had always looked upon creation with a questioning gaze, eager to understand what lay beneath the surface of all things. They came to rest upon the peak of Mount Hermon, where the stars seemed close enough to touch. It was the closest they were permitted to come to the earth below, high enough to see all that lived, yet distant enough to remain apart, as their duty required. Semjaza looked upon the faces of his brothers. "Brothers of heaven," he said, "we have come to watch over mankind. But the earth is vast, and the hearts of men are untested. If one among us falters, the burden will fall on all. Let us swear an oath to stand together, always." Azazel stepped forward with shining eyes. "If we fall together," he said. "Let it be sealed among us." The others raised their hands toward the stars. Their voices joined as one. "We are bound together. We will not forsake one another." Time passed, and the watchers watched men light fires and share their first songs beneath the moon. They saw the laughter of children and the quiet love between husband and wife. They saw the joy of life, and something within them began to stir. At first, they only observed, but the longer they lingered, the harder it became to stay apart. Semjaza watched the daughters of men as they drew water from the rivers. "They live so freely," he thought. "They know no command but the beat of their own hearts." Azazel stood beside him. "They are fragile," he said quietly. "And yet, there is strength in them, the kind that does not bow, even to heaven." The others began to whisper among themselves too. Curiosity turned to longing, and longing turned to desire. Semjaza felt the weight of it pressing on his chest. He turned his face toward the sky, as if searching for a voice to silence what he felt. But there was only wind. He looked again at the world below, and he envied what he saw. The watchers were no longer only watchers. They were witnesses to something they could not resist. For the first time in eternity, the sons of heaven felt desire. Days turned into months, and months into years. Yet Semjaza's gaze never wavered. He watched the world below with the same quiet wonder. And even though they had sworn an oath, hesitation lingered in his heart. And then, finally, he broke the stillness. "Brothers," he said, "we have watched them for so long. Their lives are brief, yet they burn with a light we do not know. Is it truly wrong to wish to walk among them?" Arakiel answered, "It is not wrong to wish, but the act will condemn us. Heaven forbids it." Semjaza turned to him. "And yet, is heaven not silent?" "Perhaps the silence is permission." Azazel stepped closer. "You fear punishment, Semjaza. You think you will fall alone. But we have sworn together. If one falls, all fall. None will turn away." Semjaza's gaze drifted back to the earth. "I only fear," he said, "that in seeking love, we will bring ruin." Arakiel placed a hand on his shoulder. "We already chose, brother. The vow is made. Let us finish what we began. The air grew heavy, and silence settled over them. Even the night seemed to wait. Then Semjaza lifted his face to the sky and whispered, "So be it." And the watchers descended once again. But this time they came through clouds and light, descending toward the earth that had long drawn their eyes and stirred their hearts. To the eyes of men, they appeared as tall and radiant beings. The daughters of men saw them and trembled. Semjaza approached one woman by the river. Her eyes reflected the starlight. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "I have watched over you since your birth." She trembled. "You are not of this world." "No," he said, "but tonight I choose to walk within it." And so the watchers took wives among the daughters of men. They lived with them, and for the first time, heaven and earth became one. Light and flesh joined in a single breath. From this union came the Nephilim, mighty and restless giants. Their strength had no limit, and their hunger knew no end. They ruled over men like gods, and the world trembled beneath them. At first, they ate the fruit of the fields and the beasts of the land, but soon their hunger grew beyond control. They turned against mankind, devouring what they once ruled. Semjaza stood on a hill overlooking the burning fields below. He spoke softly to himself. "How did it come to this?" he said. "We wanted to guide them, to bring them closer to the light. But is this what we've made?" Azazel looked upon the burning valleys and replied, "This is only the beginning. There is still more to teach them." And just like that, the watchers began to wander the world, each revealing secrets that were never meant for mortal hands. Azazel was the first. He moved among the blacksmiths and said, "Why shape the plow alone when you can shape power?" He showed them how to draw metal from the heart of the earth, how to strike iron. "Make it sharp," Azazel whispered, guiding the hammer of a trembling apprentice. "A man with a sword fears no god." In time, the forges glowed brighter than the sun. Men learned to make shields, spears, and armor, and they no longer tilled the soil, they prepared for war. But Azazel's teachings did not end there. To the women, he brought beauty's deception. He ground the dust of gems into powder, showing them how to color their eyes and adorn their bodies. "Let your face shine brighter than the dawn," he said, "and no man will resist your gaze." What began as wonder became vanity. Gold gleamed on their necks, and mirrors filled with pride. Desire, once innocent, turned to hunger. From the mountains, Arachiel descended and taught the knowledge of the earth, how roots could heal, poison, or bind the mind in dreams. "Every plant hides two faces," he said, "one to give life, one to take it." Arachiel lifted his eyes to the night and traced patterns in the stars. "These are not lights," he told the shepherds. "They are signs, messages written by the gods. Learn them, and you will read the future." Kokabel taught the mapping of constellations. Shamsiel revealed the course of the sun. Batariel whispered spells, and Tamiel showed men how to call spirits from the wind. What had once been forbidden became art. The world grew wise but sick at the same time. Villages turned to cities, cities turned to kingdoms, and kingdoms to battlefields. The Nephilim led armies of men who bore the weapons Azazel had given them. The ground was never dry, because it drank the blood of both hunter and king. Semjaza stood on a hill overlooking the carnage. Smoke rose from the plains below. His heart, once filled with awe, now felt heavy. "This was not the world we dreamed of," he said. "We wanted to share the light, not drown it in blood." Azazel beside him smiled faintly. "You speak of light as if it were holy," he said. "Knowledge is neither holy nor cursed. It is only power, and power is never still." Semjaza turned to him. "And when that power consumes everything, what will remain?" Azazel's eyes gleamed like iron in the fire. Then the world will be reborn. It must first burn to see what survives. But even Azazel began to sense what was coming. The earth began to shudder as if it could no longer bear the weight of sin. "The ground groans," said Arachiel. "It remembers the footsteps of angels and the blood of their sons." Semjaza lifted his face to the heavens. "Do you still see us?" he whispered. "Do you still remember who we were?" But the sky gave no answer. Above the burning world, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel stood before the throne, watching the chaos below. Smoke rose from the valleys, and the cries of men echoed through the clouds. The earth, once green and alive, was drowning in its own blood. Michael was the first to speak. "Lord," he said, "the world you made cries out in pain. The rivers run red, and the hearts of men have turned to stone." Gabriel stepped forward. "The Watchers have defied your command," he said. "They walk among flesh and call it love. Their sons devour the living. If this continues, there will be nothing left to save." Raphael lowered his gaze. "The ground groans beneath their weight," he said softly. "Even the wind carries their corruption. Every breath of the earth has become a curse." Uriel raised his hand toward the horizon. "If we remain silent, their sin will spread beyond the earth," he warned. "Even heaven will not stay untouched." The four archangels lowered their heads. They had watched the Watchers twist the gift of creation, and their patience was gone. Yet even as they spoke, there was fear in their hearts for what God's wrath might bring. "Lord of all creation," they said, "the earth is drowning. Its children cry for justice." But the throne was still silent. Michael lifted his face again. "Will you not act?" he asked quietly. "Will you not speak?" A deep stillness filled the heavens, heavier than sound. Then a dark wind began to rise, swirling through the stars. It moved with purpose, carrying the weight of judgment yet unspoken. Gabriel felt it first. "The wind has turned," he whispered. "He has heard us." Below, the Watchers felt it too. The air around them thickened, and the sky darkened above their cities. Semjaza stood at the edge of a ruined field, his hands stained with dust and ash. Azazel looked to the horizon and saw the storm forming over the mountains. "It comes," he said. Semjaza closed his eyes. "Then it is as we feared." Among the Watchers, whispers spread like fire. They had seen what divine wrath could do. In that moment, even the Nephilim, those mighty sons of angels, grew restless. The ground beneath them shook as if the world itself was preparing to cast them out. For the first time since their descent, they felt what mortals called despair. Semjaza walked among the empty fields. His eyes, once filled with fire, had grown hollow. Around him, the others stood in silence. "We wanted to bring them light," Semjaza said, his voice breaking, "to share what was hidden from them. But now the earth cries out against us." Azazel stood apart, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It is not the earth that condemns us," he said. "It is the silence above." Semjaza turned to him. "You still speak as if this was not your doing. You taught them the art of war. You placed blades in their hands and pride in their hearts." Azazel's expression did not change. "And you taught them love," he replied coldly. "Tell me, which of us caused more ruin?" Semjaza fell silent. Then one of the Watchers fell to his knees. "We cannot bear this," he said. "Heaven has turned away from us." Another voice followed, trembling with fear. "We must seek mercy. Perhaps if we plead, he will hear us." Semjaza looked toward the heavens, the clouds swirling like dark water. "We have prayed. he said. We have cried out, but the sky gives no answer. Azazel shook his head. He does not listen to fallen things. Then Arachiel spoke. But there is one who still walks in his favor, a man among men, a righteous one. Who? Semjaza asked. Enoch, Arachiel said, the son of Jared, the one who walks with God. At the sound of that name, the others looked up. Hope flickered faintly in their eyes. Let him speak for us, Arachiel continued. He still hears the voice of the Most High. If he pleads for us, perhaps the Lord will remember what mercy is. Semjaza hesitated. The thought of kneeling before a man made of dust felt unbearable, but their fate was sealed if they did nothing. So be it, he said finally. Let Enoch be our voice. That night, Enoch walked alone through the valley. His hair was white as moonlight. He had heard cries of the watchers before they spoke them aloud. When he reached the foot of Mount Hermon, the watchers descended to meet him. Their great wings shadowed the earth, and even the mountains seemed to tremble under their presence. But Enoch did not fear them. Semjaza stepped forward and bowed his head. Man of God, he said quietly, we have sinned. Enoch looked at him. I know. We were sent to guide them, Semjaza continued, to guard, not to rule. But we were tempted. We took wives among them, and now our children have brought ruin upon the earth. Tell him we are sorry. Tell him we wish to be forgiven. Azazel spoke last. If there is justice, there must be mercy, he said. We ask not for heaven, only for peace. Enoch looked at them for a long moment. Then he said, You wish me to plead with the Almighty? Yes, Semjaza said, go before him. Speak our names. Beg him to remember that once we were his sons. Enoch nodded slowly. I will go, but I make no promise for what he will say. Enoch was taken up in spirit to the higher realms. The stars fell away, and he came before the throne of the Most High. The light was blinding, and the ground beneath him shook with power. He fell on his face and said, Lord of heaven, the watchers have sent me. They beg for mercy. Their hearts are broken. Their children have turned to madness. They do not ask for return to glory, only for forgiveness. For a moment, all was still. Then the voice of the Lord filled the heavens like a storm. Enoch, righteous son of man, hear my words. These watchers were not made to dwell with flesh. They have defiled my creation and revealed secrets that were never meant for mortal hands. You shall say to them, You were in heaven, but now you are of the earth. Enoch bowed his head. Then the Lord spoke again. They ask that I forgive them, but it is not their place to pray for men, nor man's place to pray for them. You shall tell them this. You were not appointed to intercede for mankind, but mankind for you. The heavens shook. Then the voice continued. Tell Semjaza and his companions that their offspring, the giants of the earth, will perish by their own hands. The earth will be cleansed by flood and fire. As for them, bind them in the valleys of darkness, beneath the mountains of the earth, until the day of judgment. When Enoch returned, the watchers were waiting. Their faces were desperate for a word of hope, but Enoch's expression was grave. Semjaza stepped forward. What did he say? Enoch's voice was steady. He has spoken. Your children will be destroyed. You will be bound in the earth until the final day. There will be no mercy. The watchers fell silent. Some wept openly, others stood still, frozen in disbelief. Azazel clenched his fists. So even repentance means nothing? Enoch looked at him. You knew the command. You chose to break it. You taught men what they were not meant to know. You gave them pride, and in that pride they will destroy themselves. This is not punishment alone, it is consequence." Semjaza sank to his knees. "Then it is over." "Yes," Enoch said softly, "the flood will come, and with it, the end of all you built." He turned to leave, but paused once more. "You wanted to walk among them," he said quietly. "Now you will lie beneath them." Enoch's figure faded into the mist, leaving the fallen angels alone with their fate. Semjaza bowed his head, his voice barely a whisper. "We sought love," he said, "and found damnation." Beside him, Azazel stared into the darkening sky. "Perhaps," he said, "he will still need us when the world begins again." The silence that followed Enoch's message did not last long. From beyond the veil of light, 4 great archangels descended: Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, each bearing the command of the Almighty. The skies split open with thunder as they came. They were not coming as messengers now, but as instruments of justice. Below them, the world was in ruin. The Nephilim roamed the valleys, towering above the trees, their roars shaking the mountains. The watchers stood helpless as the earth itself seemed to rise against them. Michael's voice broke the silence. "It is time." Raphael was the first to move. He descended into the heart of the desert, where Azazel wandered among the wreckage of his creation. Around him lay the broken tools of war, the shattered blades, the rusted armor, the ashes of men. Azazel looked up. "So the healer comes to bind the teacher," he said, but Raphael's reply was calm. "You have taught enough." With a single motion he struck the ground, and chains of living light burst from the sand, wrapping around Azazel's arms and wings. The angel struggled, but the chains only tightened. Raphael lifted him high above the earth and cast him into the desert of Dudael, a barren place of stone and darkness. "Here you will remain," Raphael said, "until the fire consumes all impurity." The ground opened beneath Azazel, swallowing him whole. Far from there, Gabriel stood upon the battlefield where the Nephilim raged. Gabriel raised his hand toward the heavens. "Let the destroyers destroy themselves," he declared. At his command, madness filled the hearts of the giants. Brother turned against brother, father against son. The cries of the Nephilim filled the air until none were left to cry. High above, Michael descended to the mountains where Semjaza and the remaining watchers had gathered. Semjaza lifted his face to the sky. "Do what you must," he said. "We will not resist." Michael's gaze softened, for he had once called Semjaza brother. "You were made to guard creation," he said quietly, "not to possess it." Then he stretched forth his hand, and chains of flame fell from the sky, binding Semjaza and all who had followed him. The earth split beneath their feet, opening into a vast abyss. "Tartarus," Michael said, "the shadow beneath the world. There you will remain until the day of the great reckoning." The bound angels cried out as the light above them faded. Stone closed over their prison, sealing them in darkness. The world grew still once more. Then the voice of God moved across the heavens. "The earth is defiled by the seed of those who fell," he said. "Let the waters rise and cleanse what was corrupted." And then the skies opened. Rain fell not in drops, but in torrents, a flood that swallowed valleys and mountains alike. The seas rose to meet the clouds, and all the earth was drowned in the judgment of heaven. The Nephilim's bodies and cities that they had built vanished beneath the waves. And then, at last, the waters began to fall. The sun broke through the clouds. The world lay quiet and emptied, but alive. Deep beneath the soil, in the caverns of darkness, the watchers waited, bound by the will of God. They could not die, but they could no longer see the light. Their voices were lost to the ages, yet their offspring did not rest. The spirits of the giants, torn from their bodies by the flood, wandered the desolate world. The world was cleansed, but heaven no longer shone as it once had. And so it was written, "Thus fell the sons of heaven." In their search for love, they discovered death. If you like this movie and want to see more in the future, please hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Keep your minds open, and until we meet again,